Today, we're talking about the latest and greatest for what's working today in Facebook and Instagram ads for course creators. Stay tuned. Hey, everyone, and welcome in. Welcome to the Online Course Show. I am your host here, Jacques Hopkins. If we haven't met, hi. I have my own successful course business teaching piano. I've done that for the past 11 years, and I've been running this podcast, sharing what I've learned and highlighting successful stories and experts in this area of course creation and memberships and coaching programs here on the Online Course Show for the past 7 years. So I'm so glad you're here, whether you're a longtime listener or you're just finding us, welcome in. Today, we're featuring a course creator, but also an expert in a specific area. His name is Kwadwo, all right, just like it's spelled. No, not exactly like it's spelled. It's kind of like my name, Jacques. It's not how it's spelled. Kwadwo is a Facebook ads guy, a meta ads guy. He does Instagram as well. It's really interesting. Some of you maybe have heard of the name Rick Mulready, all right? And I've been around in the online business space for a while now, and he's one of those guys that has been around a long time. I've followed him a long time. Rick Mulready is what I'm talking about. And Kwadwo kind of took over Rick's business, or at least his podcast, okay? So Rick is a Facebook ads guy, or was, and has a podcast called The Art of Online Business. The Art of Online Business. And about 6 months, 12 months ago, fairly recently, Kwadwo took that over. And so at theartofonlinebusiness.com and the Art of Online Business podcast, that is all Kwadwo now. It was Rick Mulready, now it's Kwadwo. Rick has actually moved on to AI, and I've been following Rick's new material about AI. It's really, really cool. But this is about Kwadwo, not Rick. And Kwadwo is a Facebook ads guy. And I love this conversation, okay? Because I have very mixed feelings about Facebook ads. Many of you know I'm not a huge fan of them. I've dabbled with them in the past. I have a YouTube video on my Online Course Guy YouTube channel called, Why Facebook Ads Don't Work, right? And Kwadwo actually found that, and he brought that video up in this conversation, and he talks about it very reasonably. He actually agreed with everything I said in that video. And he's not a guy that comes in saying Facebook ads is the only way or the best way that course creators should go about building an audience. It's just very reasonable. And he talks about exactly when you should be using Facebook ads, types of funnels that you can tack on to Facebook ads, who shouldn't be running Facebook ads. Just the word I've got is reasonable. He's not coming at this like your normal Facebook ads people who live and die by them. In fact, one thing that he said a couple of times that I just thought is so clever is he says, Jesus saves, Facebook ads don't, right? He doesn't want you to look at it as a way to just save your business, like this is going to be the thing that fixes everything, but there certainly is a time and a place. And this is what he does, right? He runs, his agency runs Facebook ads for course creators. So if you're interested in that, he might be a good guy for you to work with on that. But he talks about when you might want to do it alone, when you might want to work with somebody, when you might want to not run ads as well, because he's a believer in other ways to build your audience too. So very reasonable take here from Kwadwo. So without further ado, here's that full conversation. Hey Kwadwo, welcome to the Online Course Show.
Thank you, Jacques. Thank you.
It's always a little awkward, right? Because we've been talking 5 or 10 minutes, and then I hit record, and then it's like, hey, we say hey again. Like, how do you start your? You have a podcast too. Like, how do you start yours?
So I actually went to avoid that awkwardness and make the vibes better. I just created a first segment that's getting to know you / how you built your business. That way we can get to know each other in that episode, and it's completely expected. And then by the time we get to the second episode, where like you're a guest expert, like the vibes are strong.
I'm too lazy for that. I just like, I respect it. I respect it immensely, but I'm more of just like, let's turn it on and go. You look at like big podcasters like Joe Rogan, right? Number one podcaster. Mm-hmm. I don't catch every episode. Like, what does he do? 5 episodes a week. Each one's like 4 hours long. But when I do listen, he's like the beginning of the episodes, they're just chatting, and then he's like, oh, are we recording? Like, it's just like so unprofessional, but it's like the number one podcast. So I don't know.
It's statistics, right? Like the number one of anything might not follow all the rules that like us who are not the number one have to follow, but it works because they're the number one.
Okay. So are you like the number one Facebook ads guy?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm just a guy who runs Facebook ads and does it well for my clients. But the number one, I could never claim to be the number one. I've met people who are actually quite a bit better than me, who know a lot more than me. I do know my stuff though.
Tell me more about what it is that you do and specifically who it is that you help. What kind of person?
So I help established online course creators. We looked at I looked at your YouTube video where you're like, Facebook ads don't work. Here's what to do instead. And that is very true. So I help people who already have an offer that's selling or a funnel that's converting. And I do so by helping them drive leads to their email list or directly to their launch. And a good percentage of my clients are just selling something directly to, like a low ticket offer, $27 to $67. And I run ads straight there.
You weren't supposed to see that video. It wasn't for you. I didn't mean to offend you with that video.
No, you did not. You did not. And the information that you gave is so true. Way back when I first started business, I, as a Meta Ads manager, made that mistake of working with clients who had an offer and they had some sales from it and it sounded good, but their offer really wasn't proven and established. And I mean, God bless them. It was hard though, because I tell people all the time, Jesus saves, Facebook ads do not. The offer must already be proven and selling. More eyeballs on a bad offer does not equal sales. And you effectively said the same thing in your video. So it's like, we're on the same page.
So you primarily work with course creators who are actively selling a course through some mechanism, and you want to come in and add fuel to an already burning fire with Facebook ads. Do I have that right?
Yep.
What about other ad platforms? I mean, under the Meta suite, we obviously now have Instagram and then now Threads. Like, are you on those that are under the Meta umbrella? And then are you also on other platforms that aren't under Meta?
Just Facebook and Instagram. And it's a bad habit that you just called me out on saying Facebook when I mean Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, that's it.
Why those two platforms only?
A very practical business owner decision. So I did learn Facebook ads inside of a Facebook ad agency when I was running ads for, and we did use Google ads. But ultimately, when I struck out on my own, I had to decide what to specialize in. Like I've even run TikTok ads before. And this was, now TikTok is in a bit of a situation and lots of people are uncertain about it. And so not willing to invest in that platform. But, I had to focus. Practically, if I tried to become a specialist at too many things, then I would end up being a generalist. And I feel like nobody wants to work with a generalist,
Yeah, that's fair. So how did you get into all this? Like, how did you start going into, I'm going to be an ads guy?
That is way too long of a story. I'll try to make it super concise. So I'm sitting in Beijing, the capital of China, at a Mediterranean restaurant. My wife and I are on a date. We've left our one child at home and we're like biting into, naan and hummus, and it's delicious. And she looks over to my side because there's like two girls and they've spotted me and they're starting to giggle, not in a bad way, but in a, I need to like come up to you and take a selfie way. And so I'm like, Jamie, that's my wife. And I'm like, look over there. They're going to come over and say hi. And like, so these two Russian girls come over and now they want to take a picture with me. And so I introduce them to my wife and like, we all laugh and say hi. And they're like, you're that elementary Chinese guy. And the reason I start my journey to Facebook ads here is because I use Facebook ads in the wrong way. Look at me, I'm doing it again. Meta ads, Instagram ads in the wrong way by boosting my Instagram posts while I was in China for my previous business that I had, teaching expatriates, foreigners working in China, how to speak Mandarin Chinese. And so it was kind of fun. It stroked my ego. I was like B-lister Hollywood famous, like 3-4 out of 10 expats in China could recognize me on the streets because Meta ads is like a marketplace, right? You're bidding for space on somebody's feed, and China, their internet's walled off to most of all the good Western social media platforms that have content that are trying to subvert the Chinese government. So they say, and I say it in jest, but Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, it's all blocked there. And so I was getting views on the cheap, quite famous, but I did not have a offer. In fact, I built that business's social media. Even now, if you Google my name, usually it comes up with elementary Chinese. I built that before I even had a course to sell. And then I did all the wrong things, like spending a whole summer making this great course that nobody bought. And so from there, running Facebook ads the wrong way, because Instagram loves to take your money and say, oh, this post is doing well, so let's show it to more people. Pay us. And I now help online course creators run ads the right way so that they can grow their proven offers. And I kind of skipped all the drama in between. I don't know how much you want to go into that, but I got stuck outside of China because my wife and I decided to take a vacation just when the pandemic started, like January 13th, 2020. I'm in a Spanish immersion program in Mexico, and she's there with me. And our kids, our 9-month-old and 3-year-old at the time, and 1 check-in luggage and a couple of carry-ons. And then the pandemic broke out, and we never could go back to our 12-year home in China again. We had to like hop on FaceTime on our phones and get friends to go to our houses and sell everything. One house. Sell everything over there. And from there, my life pretty much completely fell apart. That business that I had then failed because nobody was going to China learning Mandarin. And it was at the lowest point for me, but right at fall of 2020, where I started coaching about online courses. And I also started running Facebook ads the right way inside of an agency, and leverage those 2 part-time jobs into what I do now, which is funnel strategy for online course creators and, of course, running their meta ads.
That is such an incredible story. I have a first business that's unrelated to this business. I mean, they're both online courses, but one's music education and one's business education.
Okay.
And I wrestle with like, how much time should I spend on it? Like, it's still running, like the piano thing. But like, you were forced out of your first thing, right? And it sounds like you had built up a pretty big following. Like how, like,
I mean, it wasn't
how
huge.
big. How many followers did you go that thing up to?
The really humiliating thing is that I'm still the YouTube channel is still growing, and I don't do anything on it. But I think it's at like 22,000 followers on YouTube, which is not huge, but it's decent. And then at the peak, I was like at 27,000 followers, not that I'm counting, on Instagram. And since then, it's gone down because China is highly transient. Like people are going there for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then they leave because the country is hard to live in. I love it, but it's just so different. But yeah, that was all 2018, 2019. Before
were you monetizing it in any way? You said you hadn't. You went about things backwards, but was it bringing in money from something?
Yeah, it was. Not enough in the beginning, and then I did what I highly recommend every online course creator do, is take the shortcut. Join like a coaching program. Get coaching from somebody who knows what they're doing. Pay for it. Like I paid like $12,000 for like a 6-month coaching program, and it absolutely changed my business. Not even after 6 months. I remember, what was it? Man, that was tough too, because I had to get up for like the coaching sessions at like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. my time zone in China, depending on what the times in the US were doing with daylight savings. And I remember flying across the Pacific Ocean to the in-person retreat in fall of 2019 and listening to the other people in the room who dwarfed me in income. And they're like, oh, we're going to switch some things around in your business. Quit doing that. I remember they were making fun of me because they calculated how much money I was making at the time per hour, and it was like 73 cents. And so then like they kept saying, so wait a second, Kwadwo, you mean that I could come to you and get this thing and you're going to teach me Chinese for 73 cents an hour? And I was like, I mean, they're doing it in jest, but I'm just like, wow, I never thought of it this way. And they're like, Kwadwo, you got to change. We'll show you. And they did. And then the business like started booming. And then the pandemic wrecked that.
All right. So you were forced into changing careers ultimately. Yeah. And now you're a meta ads guy helping course creators. to scale with Meta ads.
Yeah.
Other than beginners who don't have a proven offer, who is not a fit?
Who's not a fit? You want to know who some of my worst clients have been? I mean, it's been great working with them, but they don't work with me anymore. People who have a very big YouTube channel and a very established organic funnel, they, while it may seem like a good idea to run Meta ads, like usually because of the strength of YouTube and just how warm or even hot a lead is that comes through that funnel after consuming a number of YouTube videos, those funnels are very hard to match. Very, very, very difficult to match with paid traffic because the nature of taking somebody from cold, interrupting their cat video sessions on Facebook and Instagram and then getting them onto your lead magnet, it just doesn't match that organic funnel. So people who have a great organic funnel with YouTube, sometimes a fit, usually not. Folks who don't have, and then obviously beginners beginner, honestly, it's not about beginner or somebody who's advanced or had a course for 4 years, because I've coached people who had courses for like 4 years and they just weren't doing the right thing, i.e., unfortunately, repeating the same mistakes for 4 years, and they hadn't had as much success as a quote unquote beginner who'd been doing it for like 4 months. So I'll say that.
You just teed me up big time for a story, like big time.
Tell me.
And I don't think you could know this, but I'm ready to get into it because the type of person you said is not a fit. I had that experience and I still haven't figured out why. And maybe you can break it down for me why it happened to me. But a couple 2-3 years ago, I had been running my business, Piano in 21 Days, for, at the time, maybe 8 years. I had sold at the time $3.5 million in course sales of a single piano course with the same funnel, majority of the traffic coming from YouTube. And I said, you know what? It's time to invest in Facebook ads the right way. I've piddled with it before. I'd done some myself. I had hired people on Upwork super cheap, right? I'm going to hire somebody that's expensive, that knows what they're doing, and we're going to really ramp this thing up. So I paid a lot of money. The setup fee was like $5 or $10,000. The monthly fee was like $5,000.
Whoa!
And then I had to spend money on ads.
I'm sorry. All right.
So 2-3 months in, I'm like $40,000 in. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Got a lot of leads. Got a lot of email opt-ins. Guess how many courses we sold?
Please don't say less than 20.
0.
0?
0.
Oh,
0.
I'm so sorry. Oh, jeez. Okay.
0. Running people through my exact same funnel that had worked organically, that had done millions of dollars in sales.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of ads. They did the targeting. We got a lot of leads, right? That wasn't the problem.
Right.
Like, people were opting in. They were going through the funnel. At first, it wasn't working. We're like, well, we got to let the funnel play out because a lot of people buy at the end of the funnel, and they just never bought. And I'm like, it was such a waste of money. And so when you just said that, like, who's it not for? I was like, that's me. That was my experience, and I do not understand why.
Yeah.
Do you understand why?
I do not have 100% of the answers, but maybe there's some clues. Sound good? And I was just being straight up because I love working with businesses that have offers that are already running screamingly well. Like, we call them like champagne clients with champagne problems. Like, I spend $10,000 a month and I would love to scale to $20,000 on ad spend. It's just, I can't do it by myself, or the budget intimidates me, or launching with that kind of budget is successful, like with paid ads, but I want to be able to show up with all of my energy focused on serving people who are coming into the launch and not worrying about managing that kind of budget. But while I like working with a client that has a business like that, when I find that somebody has a large YouTube channel and is consistently getting lots of sales, what's usually happening is that lead, and this is a good thing, but that lead is very, 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 very warm, because you can't see how many videos somebody has consumed of yours before they opt in to a lead magnet that's in the descriptions of a YouTube video, right? You also can't see how many other people's videos they've searched in order to solve their problem, in addition to the ones from your channel that they've watched. But since YouTube is like the second biggest search engine in the world to Google, and they're both owned by Google, which is now Alphabet, you can safely assume that people who are on YouTube consuming your content and going into your funnel not only love your content and have watched a bunch of it, but have also been actively searching to solve that problem, and probably listen to some other people that are in your same niche delivering the same value, but they like you better. And so that kind of client, and even your business before, like those leads are very, 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 it's absolutely worth it to build a YouTube channel. We'll leave it at that. And so what might have happened is that Facebook ads, while they do work, putting somebody through the exact same funnel without tweaking the messaging to speak to a more cold audience who has a lot lower level of like and trust built up. Because like you talk about building up the no like and trust factor all the time, right? That might have been the issue. And unfortunately, getting a bunch of leads to go through a funnel that is working with a really warm traffic doesn't actually prove that the funnel is like a knockout with absolutely cold traffic. And so a lot of times the messaging has to change. And you know what I like better than just a lead funnel is a low ticket offer, self-liquidating offer funnel. Those are nice because while they take a lot more work, once you figure them out, then you actually know that cold traffic is converting into the offer and that your messaging has been dialed in. You know, the meta ads, the email sequences, the sales page. And so that might have been the issue. I'm so sorry that it took working with an agency at $5,000 a month plus did you say a $10,000 startup fee?
I don't remember the exact numbers. I just know that
Either
I wasted
way, that's
a lot of money. So
that's a lot.
That context probably helps you a little bit with that video you saw on my YouTube channel for Online Course Guy saying why Facebook ads don't work. And I appreciate, even though you are a Facebook ads guy, you understood the message behind it. And for those that aren't familiar with the video, like it's essentially comes down to what I call like the offer trust threshold. Like we've got to get people, our potential buyers, across that threshold of where offer and trust come in together. And that, from my experience, for Facebook ads, you're not building enough trust like we can with YouTube. And like you said, we don't know how many of my YouTube videos they've actually watched before they even opt in. And so theoretically, I've built up a lot of trust with people. But my point was like, your offer has to be a 10 out of 10 for Facebook ads to really work. And we can get away with a 6, 7 out of 10 offer if we have much higher trust factor. So basically what I'm hearing is that a successful funnel for organic traffic might not be the same funnel or even the same offer for Facebook ads. Not to say we can't make it work one way or another. Now, I have heard ads people say that for selling courses through ads, the best type of offer is going to be either high ticket or low ticket, right? And my offer is kind of a medium. So that made sense to me. Tell me more about what's working for Facebook ads for course creators. And if you just want to focus on the low ticket self-liquidating offer, I'm cool with that.
Okay. So I have to say, in my experience, no. I've seen in the Facebook and the meta ads agencies that I've worked in, and then my own business over the past, 2024. So since fall of 2022 is kind of when I started doing ads for my own clients. It doesn't matter the price of the offer with Facebook ads. All offers all price points do sell. What really does matter is the messaging and how well the funnel is working. But are you more alluding to what price points will work if you're running ads directly to an offer, such as like a self-liquidating offer?
I guess so. I think like I'm just regurgitating some information I got. And I think the
Yeah.
premise was if we're going really high ticket, we're probably selling on the phone and we can spend, like if we're selling a $5,000 product, we can spend $2,000 on one conversion and make $3,000 profit. I think that's
Sure.
why high
Okay.
ticket,
Yeah.
he was saying high ticket can work. And then low ticket, if it's like $50, then we just want to try to break even. And then anything we can upsell down the road will be pure profit.
Mm-hmm. This is true. But we shouldn't always look at like Facebook or Meta ads bringing in sales as like a loss leader where you're selling people on a low ticket offer if you have this kind of a funnel and it's not making money for the business. Like I very strongly believe and have seen it over and over again. If the business has a good email nurture sequence set up off the back end of a lead magnet and then already does a good job at nurturing leads toward a conversion event, be that a webinar launch, a boot camp, a workshop, be it paid or I guess free workshop would be a webinar. So a paid workshop, then you can run Facebook ads to that funnel and have them work just fine. You ask what I've seen working for my clients recently, and recently this year, we've had to shift a lot of clients' ad budget back to the lead magnet and do like kind of the unsexy thing, which is just promote the lead magnet with ads and then rely on a very, very robust nurture sequence. And then when it gets time to launch, instead of what used to work in previous years really well, which is you could just turn on Meta ads and target a cold audience that has yet to be in your business ecosphere, that doesn't follow you on social media, that has not seen any of your videos, and they would register for a launch and they would buy your product. What we saw is people coming into a launch cold and sitting through one or two launches before purchasing, which after you look at the data for a client, and when I say data, I just mean like three numbers. You could look at your total revenue from a launch, look at your leads. Hopefully every course creator listening right now, please get in the habit of however you're selling your course. If you're using paid traffic, please track that paid traffic separately so that you can know how much profit you're making per lead for your paid traffic. It doesn't matter if it's Meta ads or not, because that number is really important. And what I've seen in my clients because of tracking that number is that it made a lot more sense just to move Meta ad spend to the lead magnet. And then when launch time comes, only use Meta ads for targeting the warmest audiences. I'm talking about email lists and people who follow on social media, or in the case that you have a strong blog, people who visited your website. I feel like we may have gotten off track. You were asking about self-liquidating offers.
I mean, at a higher level, I'm asking what's working, working for course creators, right? So like, let's just take my example, if you don't mind, very selfishly. Like I'm selling basically an $800 piano course, right? Okay. I don't have a $50 offer or anything like that. I could add one, but I have a very strong lead magnet that I've had for years that people enjoy. It's called Learn 36 Popular Songs in 5 Days. Yeah. If you were advising me, how would we set up ads? What would we do? Would we create a low ticket product? Would we run ads to the lead magnet? And then what would happen downstream of that?
Okay. So if I was wearing my coaching hat that I used to wear a lot more before I became like a full-time Facebook ads manager, the first thing that I'm going to do is ask where your leads are coming from right now, like the most profitable leads. And I'm going to ask you, what is the profit per lead? And you could calculate that by looking at, say, a month and saying how much revenue you generated and then dividing that by the number of leads total. Or if you're tracking specifically what platform your leads are coming from, then you know how much revenue those leads have generated. That's where I always start, because the answer is, unfortunately for me, but really good for a business owner. And I always advise people, like, the answer is not always Meta ads. Now, if we were going to run paid traffic and you wanted high level strategy, then yes, I would heavily encourage you to set up a low ticket offer somewhere between $27 and $47 and invest your time and your business resources until that offer got profitable. The good news is it shouldn't be so difficult because you're not trying to validate something. You already have a course that's selling, right?
Right.
Right. So at this point, your course, does it have like a weekly live coaching component, or is it completely DIY?
There is a monthly live Q&A.
All right. So then one step, now that we have AI, but you probably already know, since you've been doing it for 8 years, did you say? Or 7?
Piano business, 11 years.
11 years. So you know the questions that people are asking. And what usually happens is that you can people just say, pull out a module from the course or a couple of lessons from the course and use that as a low ticket offer. But even more targeted or more strategic approach would be just go with the questions that you get the most for your, we'll call it a mid-tier offer, and build a mini offer around those questions or just one question that you get the most, and then sell that at like $27. Because then what you have is, since lots of people ask you the same question and it's something of value that they need, then you can just go in depth on that. Maybe you make a series of 4 lessons. People really enjoy bite-sized consumable course content now because we're all overwhelmed. So like I'm talking 4 lessons of 10 minutes each for that one answer, or maybe it's 2. You broke it down, you got some decent worksheets. You're not mailing it in when it comes to descriptions. And then you build a stellar sales page around that and you sell that thing for $27. And because it's very aligned with your main course, because the questions came from that main course, then you can, I won't say very easily, but what I'm getting at here is once somebody buys the lower ticket offer, your messaging is not as hard to put together. You can very easily connect the dots from a program that solves one problem to your core offer that solves all 10 problems in an email sequence and upsell them to that offer. So like that's where my advice is going for as an ads manager who like would work with you, because ultimately you had that problem when you ran ads to a lead magnet, right? That a ton of leads were coming in and it's great. It's like, I'm getting $3 leads or however much they cost. But those leads, if you only launch twice a year, then you have to wait and see if those leads actually convert into buyers. And many times they don't convert. And we kind of get thrown under the rug as ads managers because, maybe the targeting was off, or maybe the ad manager didn't scrutinize the messaging enough and make sure it aligned with, the offer that we're trying to sell down the line too. But like ultimately, there is this issue that when you bring in leads to a lead magnet, a good percentage of those people are just kind of consuming we call them, and I feel like it's a derogatory term, but like freebie seekers, And so that's why I say you do have to have a robust funnel off the back of the lead magnet, but developing a low ticket offer that you can sell directly forces you to go through the testing process that like every course creator has to go through. We're talking about how do you communicate the skill that you teach, the passion that you have been blessed with to serve people. How do you communicate that in a way that makes people want to buy it? Like, how do you sell them out of integrity? Because you do have to get good with your messaging in order to get people to realize that they need help from you and then let you help them. And so, yeah, this low ticket offer, I think it's a must. Even if somebody were to have to spend the time, just their time, not pay somebody to do it for them, but just spend their time honing their messaging and trying to get a low ticket offer based on their main course to sell, like it's a must. It's great for running Facebook ads because then you're not growing your list with free leads. Meta's paying you to grow your list or even giving you profit to grow your email list. So at a high level, that's how I would approach a course situation like yours. That way you get this low ticket offer that's generating profit, and that profit then you start to scale And then with that, you cover your ad spend first goal, second goal, and not everybody gets there, but second goal, you cover the ad manager's fee.
So let's say that I take your advice and I put together a new offer that's $27. What would you consider a success in terms of how much I'm paying per conversion? Anything 27 or below?
The first point of success is that you're breaking even. So 27 or below. If it was $27 spent per purchase, then that would give you a ROAS of 1. So you're giving $1 and you're making $1. That's the first point of success. And then from there, if you're managing your own ads, then, I mean, obviously you know how much your operating costs are on the back end of your business, but let's just simplify it and say, if you're making any profit off of a low ticket offer and you're running your own ads, then that profit is just icing on the cake at that point after you're breaking even.
Okay. So let's say I do it and I'm breaking even and getting tons of people in $27. I'm spending $27. So I'm getting all these people in, but it's not making any sort of profit. Mm-hmm. What do I do beyond that first sale to make it very profitable without it coming across as some sort of bait and switch? Like, oh, I paid $27, but he really wants me to pay $800.
So bait and switch, as far as I understand it, is when I want one thing and I think I'm getting that thing and I get something else, especially something else that doesn't work. Is that how you're defining bait and switch too?
I mean, when you put it that way, it doesn't sound like it's going to be that much of a problem, but yes, essentially.
Okay, yeah. And then also, if what I'm hearing is how do we get somebody from the $27 to the $800 without feeling like we're just trying to push a program down their throats, which has been done, by the way, so often and so much since like the most recent online course boom of 2020. The key here is messaging. It's how are you talking to them? Have you done the testing, let's say, or the research to see like piano course, right? For you to see what their problem truly is. And then what are those frustrations coming out of that problem that are the most frustrating ones or that the most people have? Because what I've seen is that you got a course that helps people. Maybe you have a mini course or a low ticket offer that helps people. People need the more expensive thing, but not everybody does. And so like, just like somebody might have different frustrations, you got to learn how to talk to like the right ones with decent messaging that's not like salesy, but that's speaking to, let's call it the right issues. Because if you're solving somebody's problem, then they're willing to pay. Like if they understand that you can solve their problem and they understand it in the way that not just makes sense to their brain, but also makes sense to their heart, and they're willing to pay you and they don't feel like you're trying to sell them. Like if I go to my doctor because my back, if I go to the doctor because my throat's scratchy, and I can't just get rid of this cold, and he looks at me and he says, no, Kwadwo, it's probably this, do this, and this, but I would recommend you go to a specialist because of these 3 things. And it could be that you have like pneumonia or something like that. Like the way he approached it or she makes me feel like they're being quite prescriptive and not trying to just sell me to a colleague, And so I'm willing to go because they identified the problem and they told me how it can be fixed. Versus like I know doctors always do this, right? Like they do the right thing, but versus I go to somewhere and they say, hey, well, here's this medication, this works, but actually I have this other medication that's really good for you and it will get rid of your cold in like 3 days versus a week. Just take this. But they haven't told me why I'm struggling. They haven't told me, oh, it could be this more serious thing. And here's what I found. They haven't given me anything that lets me know that they care for me and really understand how to help me. And I think that's the difference when you're going from like a low ticket offer to a high ticket offer is all about the messaging involved. But since we're talking about profit, you can't just have a $27 offer since we chose a number. You need to have an order bump there. And you need to have an upsell right on that next page. because the stats are just that if you spend the time having an aligned order bump and an aligned upsell, then there's a percentage of people that are going to buy both of those or just one of them, even on cold traffic. Like you should expect, I'll say on a low end, 10%, on a high end, 35% of people who buy your low ticket offer. Since we said 27, let's just stay at 27. You should expect like about that percentage to buy an order bump. And of the people that buy that first offer, you should expect anywhere from 5 to 10% to buy an upsell on that thank you page right then and there. Provided you've done the research, provided that those 3 offers align, then yeah, there's going to be a percentage of people who would purchase all 3, and that will increase your average cart value. And yes, absolutely. As long as you've done your research right and you approach your messaging from like a place of service, but make sure that you're speaking to the right issues, then the person that gets your high ticket offer, even though they came to you for your low ticket offer, shouldn't feel like it was a bait and switch or like you're just a professional marketer trying to get them to buy one thing after another.
It all sounds like great advice. Before we move on to something else, there's one more piece of this that I want to ask you about. You mentioned that if we do this, say $27 product, one thing that's required, these are your words, a stellar sales page.
Yeah.
What are the components of a stellar sales page?
Oh, geez, you've given me a quiz. All right. 3 parts of a sales page that I like to talk about, though, like you can go into details in each section. There's 13 sections that I coach my clients through. I actually have a PDF for it. It's not one of these lead magnet PDF. It's just something I use internally. But so here's the biggest mistake that I see when someone makes a sales page. And I'll say somebody like me, because I tend to just be logical, right? And a lot of people, when they make a sales page, they're very good at the logic part of the sales page. When I say logic, I mean the part of the sales page that speaks to people who are logically driven. This is my course. This is the issue it solves. This is the modules. Each module has 5 lessons, and buy it. Because of course you should buy it, because it makes sense. I just told you everything it does for you. But like that's only one part of a sales page. And so I would argue that the most important part of the sales page is not that logical portion, but it's the portion that should go above that logical portion. And I'm going to call it the emotional portion. The portion that speaks to the issues and how those issues manifest themselves or are realized in the person's life who needs your help. If you're selling I can't do it off the top of my head for a piano course. Maybe I can try. Selling a piano course, right? And you got all your lessons there, but have we talked about why somebody wants to learn the piano? Like, there's tons of different reasons. Is this the parent who's trying to get their kid to learn the piano because their parent was an artist and believes like, the arts are super important for development? Is this the kid who wants to learn piano so they can play their favorite songs? If so, like, what are those songs, By the way, what are the frustrations with playing a piano? It's more than just here's the lessons, but like, how do you get over those finger cramps? And what do I do if I don't play piano, so I'm just going on the fly here. But what if I can't like expand my thumb and my pinky far enough to hit those chords right, And why is it so frustrating? Like these things, like, can you speak to those? The emotional part. Can you provide a slice of life from this person, the word that we always use, this avatar that you're selling to? Can you provide a slice of their life that lets them know that you understand the questions they have and the problems they have and the frustrations they have? And that is at the emotional part of the sales page. That's before the logic part, which is why on a lot of good sales pages, and like, I think in your episodes, you said like the offer matters most. And it's true. The offer does matter most. Like if it's a crummy offer, it's just not going to sell well. But still, you can improve your conversions rates with that emotional part up top, leading into the logical part and the urgency part at the bottom without going into super detail. How's that?
Yeah, no, that sounds great. So Kwadwo, let's talk a little more next about your business, theartofonlinebusiness.com,
Yeah.
primarily a Facebook, Meta ads agency helping course creators to scale. Is it you? Do you have a big team of ad specialists that somebody would work with? Tell me more about the business.
Yeah, I started going down the route of a larger agency when I had like these goals of scaling up to a certain number, and that didn't serve me well. I learned the hard lesson that with a bunch of junior ad managers running accounts so far, and I hadn't figured out the way to incentivize them the right way, but mistakes were just made. And I realized I could run a better business if I ran the ads myself and just really focused on finding the right kind of ad client. So I have a small team. I have an EA, executive assistant. She kind of sits more on the side of operations, like because she used to be an ads manager for me. And so she handles all the projects, so to speak. So she's like an EA. She does email customer support and project management. And then I have a video editor who I will never let go because he is quite good. And I have a part-time team member who takes care of the ad creative design. I'm talking about graphics, words on images equals graphics, and then the reels that we use or make for clients. And then my wife is on the team now. She's a very new addition. And she does manage her own ad accounts, but she also does, and that's how you and I met. She sends out pitches to be on other people's podcasts.
Awesome. Okay. And you have your own podcast called The Art of Online Business.
Yeah.
But that hasn't always been your podcast, right? I've been familiar with that for a while, Rick Mulready. So my understanding is you basically bought that podcast from him, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I did indeed purchase it from him.
How does one purchase a podcast? That's interesting.
With money. So the context here is that one should not purchase a podcast. Let me just say that. In case somebody's listening and they're getting ideas like, I'm sitting on a pile of cash and I've heard Cody Sanchez videos about buying a small business, so I'm going to go purchase a podcast. Do not do that. I want to go on the record and say, do not purchase a podcast. And the reason that you don't want to do that is because it's the same reason that you'd never want to purchase a personality-driven business. Because as soon as the personality leaves who grew that business, most likely a lot of the business's influence and income would leave too. So there's my disclaimer. But how does one purchase a podcast? Before I get there, why did it make sense for me to do what I just said do not do? And it hasn't been without its struggles, but basically it made more sense because I was working with Rick Mulready and knew him. He actually taught me a lot of what I know about sales, marketing, building out a team, like working on funnels, making meta ads work. So when you have a guy that taught you, and like Rick Mulready, he's a great guy, and he's doing really cool things in the AI world, right? In the AI world right now. But when you work with somebody for like 3 years, and it's sort of like that apprentice coach relationship, then you think more like them. You're more like them, and so that's one point where it made sense to acquire the podcast because we kind of, as far as online business goes, had the same approach because he was paying me to coach clients inside of his high-level coaching program. So like, I better have the same coaching approach that he does, right? So far, so good. Tracking with me?
Yes.
While we don't have the same personality, there is an element of value that's not related to the personality. Like, I think was it before we hit record or during this podcast, we were talking about Joe Rogan and how maybe the things he does with his podcast don't follow all like the best practices, but because he's like the number one podcast, like it just works for him, So there's an element to like of value to the knowledge that a podcast provides. And so I could look at that decision and say, well, I kind of I did come up in the school of Rick Mulready. Therefore, like we have a lot of the same way we approach issues with online businesses and help and serve online course creators. Therefore, I had to ask myself, like, could I provide the same value? I thought I could not provide the same value because that guy has been in the online business space for decade and a half, maybe 13 years. But I could take the same knowledge with my own unique past and abilities and approach and provide that kind of value at a different level. Like I can't claim to have run an online business for over a decade, right? And so also then something that was very telling was if somebody's going to purchase anything, you have to know like why you're going to do it. And for me, as I was starting to manage Facebook ads for the longest period of time, the podcast was a source of clients. The podcast was already a proven source of clients that had trusted Rick and that were coming into his high level coaching program. And so like, as I was an ads manager, that podcast was also already producing clients for me before I ever became the official host of the podcast, you know? And another thing too was way before I decided to go through with the purchase, like I was a guest on the podcast for a number of episodes. And we looked at the data, and the data was showing that when I was a guest or when I was doing a solo episode, like the views weren't falling, you know? It wasn't like Rick had this many people watching. And then when I was on there, it was like crickets, you know? And so like you just really have to be wise when purchasing anything. But those were some of the reasons that for me, it made sense to go ahead and become the new host of the podcast.
Amazing.
It was a fun journey. Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, I said it was a fun journey. I'll say it was an intriguing journey with lessons to be learned, but it's been a good ride so far.
So you like as business owners, it doesn't matter how good our audience our offer is, how good our program is or our service that we're offering, if we don't have an audience. And it sounds like that was one of the driving forces behind now you being the host of the podcast is to build your audience, drive traffic to your funnel, to your offers.
Yeah.
You all also mentioned podcast outreach, right? We got a very nice pitch from you to come on this podcast. So you're hosting your own podcast. You're reaching out about going on other podcasts, which are audience building strategies that I fully endorse and use that are great. But you're a Facebook ads guy, right? Yeah. Why not just run more Facebook ads?
So I do run Facebook ads to a couple of podcast episodes, and I do run Facebook ads to my offer. But, and I think I mentioned this earlier in like the interview, you got to lean into what's working. And I am a Facebook ads guy, but like, do I preach Facebook ads as the only way? No. Like as a business coach, I say double down on what's working the most and focus on that, because you can make sales in a variety of ways. You could be really great at finding affiliates for your launch and just having a ton of sales come through your launch from affiliates. You could be really great at running meta ads to a low ticket offer that costs like $10. And then you have a brilliant upsell funnel and that thing just prints money. You could be really great at just putting out YouTube videos and having a funnel that generates revenue from there. And you get sponsorships for your YouTube channel and you get like speaking opportunities. You know, maybe your business is set up where most of your revenue comes from speaking on stages, but like ultimately you got to just choose one or two ways to grow. And so, yeah, I'm a Facebook ads guy, but I could have also been a business coach. I just had to pick one because I didn't want to focus on both and like drown and not be successful. And so when it came time to pick, I chose the ads route. And the way I market is the way that's worked for me the most, like personally in my business. And that's what I would recommend for like any other course creator too, you know, like it's just, it can be overwhelming. And you get this too, right, Jacques? There's so many strategies and there's so many videos telling you to do one thing. And I kind of liken it to like the person who's overweight and wants to lose weight, for whatever reason, summer body, right? Like I tell people, hey, I'm just early. I'm not late on my summer 24 body. I'm just early on my summer 25 body, right? But I go to Google and I Google how to lose weight. And what happens is I see the vegans saying, don't eat meat. Meat is the devil, only vegetables. And then I see the paleo people who are like promoting that. And then I see the intermittent fasting people who are like only eat one time a day. And they all look like gods and goddesses, right? And here I am, fat and confused, because all of the methods work. It's just I have to pick one and stick with it. And so like that's my approach, and that's my answer in a roundabout way to like, aren't you the ads guy? But yet you are showing up on other podcasts and using this as your method of growth? Like both and, yep.
Really interesting. Okay, so what about this? I think you've explained ads for course creators in a very relatable way. I think people are really going to enjoy your explanation of all this. If somebody is like invigorated by what you're saying and they want to start, maybe they want to start a self-liquidating offer, low ticket, something like that. I know this is, you're impossibly biased with this question I'm about to ask, but like, should people try to do it on their own? And when should you consider hiring somebody to help you do it?
Oh, no, I'm not biased. Like, you're over there. I'm over here. We got our passions. Like, we like it when our passions put food on the table and allow us to have like the dreams that we've been dreaming for. Right. But like, I'm absolutely not biased when it comes to meta ads. Should somebody start doing it on their own? First, before you ever think about starting to do it on your own, look for the signs that you already have a successful offer. Listen to Jacques. Listen to the people he interviews. Listen to the commonalities, like, and how they grew their businesses. But ultimately, for your business, does your offer sell when you send out emails to your email list? Does it sell when you launch? If you're putting up your offer for sell in Instagram stories, like I did this when I first launched my group coaching program way back when I taught Chinese. I sold that thing from my Instagram stories saying there were 20 spots left. This is what it is. DM me. And I had a great like DM sell sequence and people loved my program. So however you sell it, does it sell? If it does, start to look at the numbers. Like if you have a process that sells your course with a discovery call, you need to like track each step. I put this many Instagram stories up to get a DM. It took this many DMs to get somebody on a discovery call with me. It took this many discovery calls to sell. Therefore, I know that each Instagram story I post is worth so many dollars because I tracked that revenue back, right? And what I'm getting at is, yes, number crunching, but like, I don't want you to lose money. Like, that's my heart. So a good way to not lose money is to know like how much profit there is. Let me put my wedding rings back on. I always fiddle with them, but to know like how much profit there is per lead or per action that you're doing to generate those leads. And if you see that there's profit, that is a good sign that you could start running meta ads to help. But then you like got to avoid all the mistakes. Like don't do what I did when I lived in China and just boosted posts from Instagram that weren't connected to anything. Like nowadays you got MiniChat and you might have MiniChat hooked up to an Instagram post that's connected to a solid funnel. Great. Maybe you can. I wouldn't say boost a post. I'll never say that. But maybe you can start running ads on your own after you invest in a good course. Like you will pay the ignorant tax. We all have to pay that and lose money until we get it right. And especially with meta ads, it's a minefield of mistakes waiting to happen because they got all these options to click or not click. And then now they're making all these suggestions about optimizing your ads. Some work, some are trash. So you can go the DIY route, but first just please look and see if you have profit when you're selling something or how much these lead generation actions are worth and then how much the leads are worth. And then how do you make the decision to hire somebody? That is kind of looking at your overall revenue and who you are in your business, as in what hats do you wear in your business and what actions are you doing that are the most valuable to your business and makes you and that are irreplaceable. Meaning, like, let's just throw out a number. People like to say $150,000 in gross annual revenue. I say that before you should even consider hiring a Facebook ad manager, a Meta ad manager. But that's because Meta ad managers come with an ads management fee, and your business needs to be generating profit for that fee. Again, not like on a hope and a prayer, but actually like your bookkeeper, who hopefully you have one, who at that point who's doing your monthly numbers says, "Hey, you can afford this," and then your bookkeeper, because your Meta ads person will send you data, will tell you what your cost per lead is, but you got to look at the numbers and say, like, is this profitable for my business? But yeah, at that point, you might want to consider having somebody else run your ads. And the key there is if there's profit in your business, but also if you're making like $2,000 a year and you have decent profit, there's probably things in your business as the CEO of your business that only you can do. I'm talking about things like striking up cool strategic partnerships, speaking on stages.
Real quick, you said $2,000 a year. I'm guessing you meant like more than that.
200,000 a year. Okay, thank you.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Please. Yeah. No, 200,000 a year. And there's things that only you can do, only the business owner can do, right, Jacques? Like, you don't do everything on your business, yeah?
No, I've got a team, but like you said, there are things that I need to be doing.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And for many business owners, as they scale higher in those revenue numbers, Facebook ads, Meta ads becomes one of those things that, one, they can hire off because it produces a lower return on their time than some of these other business activities do that they can't hire out. And so at that point, they look at the profit and they start thinking, I'm going to go hire an ads manager who might know more than them or be able to manage better than them or just has more tricks up their ad management sleeve to keep ads working better or to scale budgets a lot higher while maintaining profit. But that's generally the thought process that somebody would want to go through before they decide to hire an ads manager or even do ads themselves.
Okay, that all makes sense. And I'm good with that. Let me run this scenario by you. What if somebody's listening to this that hasn't gotten started yet? And one of the things we try to avoid is making this amazing course, but it never sells.
Yeah.
Is it possible for, like, have you seen to where somebody could take this concept of the low ticket self-liquidating offer, maybe $27, and make a smaller version of the course that they have envisioned, make a much easier to put together version, simpler offer, and get started with that to try to get some validation and running ads to that low ticket offer?
That's possible, but that's not what I would advise. I mean, if we're talking hasn't sold a course yet, thinking about what course to sell, is that what we're talking here?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. I wouldn't go for a low ticket $27 course when the value that I have is truly a $497 course. Like, I wouldn't try to validate the course by running ads to it in the beginning, because that's just, I mean, you might as well just start burning money, because when we first develop a course, even though we got all the knowledge up here, we don't have the messaging. And ads is like the quickest way to find out if your messaging sucks. And usually our messaging is really bad in the beginning. What I would do is go for the course at the price you think it should be at. Maybe, I'm not part of the comparison. Okay, I don't want you to compare to other folks, but maybe do some research and see a decent price point. But I would pre-sell that course before ever developing it. And I learned this from Rick already, and it works really, really well. So it's what I still tell people to do. But look at your promise of the course and look at your premise of the course. Promise being the outcome that the course provides, and premise being the thing that you could argue about the outcome. Premise would be it's the fastest way to do this, the quickest way to do this, the only way to do this if you don't want to bang your head against the wall. The arguable thing would be the premise. And then I would take an outline of the course not in detail, just an outline. I don't mean a detailed list of the lessons. I mean an outline of like what the lessons accomplish. And I would put that up and I would run traffic to that thing any way I could in a very honest way, saying, this is not developed yet. I will develop it if there's enough demand. It's 60% off, half off for the first 20 of you guys who want to trust me. If I don't reach that full number, I will give you 100% refund. And that will even cost me because my payment processor is going to charge me a fee for refunding you. And once we get to that number, we're going to start. You're special because you're trusting me without having developed the course. I'm going to take you through the first iteration of it live. We're going to have these bonus live Q&A sessions, which will not be for anyone else but you guys, the first round, founding members, if you want to call it. Like Jacques, I'm launching a course like that. And then I'm getting my messaging from all the questions. Like I'm doing kind of onboarding interviews like, hey, why did you decide to trust a random guy on the internet, for this piano course, Like, why are you here? Why did you pay me? Like I'm asking these things when I first talk to people who sign up for the course and I'm recording it. I'm running that through whatever AI software I love. And I'm using that messaging later on down the line when I do decide to sell the course. But I would never run ads to a course that hasn't been proven. And I wouldn't run ads to a course that I think would sell, but that I've never sold, even if it's a low ticket course.
We are fully on the same page there. It's just an idea that came into my head as we were talking. I just wanted to get your take on it. So once again, as the Facebook ads guy, it's interesting that you would say, nope, don't do that either. And we're very much aligned on a better way to get started. So as I said, this has been some really valuable information. I think people are going to get a lot out of it. If somebody is listening to this and they want to potentially work with you or just learn more from you, it's called action time. Where should people go?
They should go down to the link in the show notes below and get this free tutorial. It's not fluff. It's 7 steps that I see because I coach people with their Facebook ads, meta ads, one-on-one. So it's the 7 most common mistakes that I see that burn through folks' cash. And it's me on like a video tutorial going through an ads manager and showing you what not to do and then showing you the solution for each of those 7 mistakes. Start there if you're interested in running your own ads because I will save you money if you watch those and don't do those mistakes. And otherwise, just come listen to the Art of Online Business podcast. We do 3 episodes a week. And I love to interview. You're going to be on the podcast too, Jacques, but I love to interview folks who have an online business or folks like launch strategists and copywriters and sales professionals who work with online course creators so that you can level up your course income. So those are the next 2 ways you could find out more and get more help and value from me.
Right on. So the Art of Online Business podcast, and then you're gonna give me a link that we'll put in the show notes for that free resource as well. Yeah. Kwadwo, been an absolute pleasure, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's been an honor. Thank you, Jacques.
And thanks again to Kwadwo for joining me today. Definitely check out his podcast too. I mentioned that in the intro. It's the Art of Online Business. And you'll be hearing from me on that podcast very soon. For the show notes for this episode, head to oc.show/237. And the last thing is I email out 1 actionable tip for your online course business every Friday. It's totally free. Many of you are on the list already. You're getting those. Hopefully you're loving them. But some of you aren't, and it's making me sad, and it's time to change that. To start getting my free weekly email newsletter, head to oc.show/tips. That's oc.show/tips. Thanks again for listening, and don't forget to take action on what you've heard here today. I'm rooting for you.